Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where we sit down with the people who give shape, texture, and voice to the stories that matter here on the North Fork of Long Island and sometimes far beyond. Some are rooted here by generations, others arrive by chance or choice, but all carry with them a piece of the story. We talk about what's changing, what's worth holding on to, and the currents of history, both quiet and loud, that run through this place. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 200, we sit down with Suffolk County Executive Ed Romaine, who brings with him not only a long record of public service, but a deep personal connection to the region, shaped by family roots, community history, and a commitment to stewardship that stretches across generations. Over the years, he has served in roles that placed him at the center of both local governance and countywide decision-making, earning a reputation for leadership style that balances pragmatism with a steady, persistent sense of duty. Now as county executive, he's guiding Suffolk through an era defined by major challenges and equally significant opportunities. In this conversation, we explore the priorities driving his 2026 budget, from public safety to infrastructure, as well as the critical issues shaping daily life across the county: affordable housing, economic development, environmental protection, and transit. We discuss the historic Water Protection Bill and what it means for Suffolk's long-term resilience, the climate-driven threats facing its vulnerable coastal communities, and the future he envisions for places like Greenport and the North Fork, where tourism, tradition, and community identity meet. We also talk about navigating political divides and what he's learned across a lifetime in public service. And finally, we look ahead towards the legacy he hopes to leave and the lasting impact he wants to make on the county he served for so many years. So I hope you enjoy episode 200 with County Executive Ed Romaine. This episode was recorded August 25th, 2025. Thank you so much for coming on the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. It's really an honor to have you on today.
My pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And so in the beginning, I'd like to start off, if you can give us a little background about yourself and your ancestry on Long Island.
Sure. I was born right after World War II. My father served, was severely wounded in the Pacific, and also served in the occupation of Japan. And he came home in February of 46 and married my mother on March 2nd of 1946. In 9 months to the day, myself and my brother arrived. So I'm a twin, and we were born December 1st, 1946. And we lived briefly in the city, and then we moved out to Bayport. And back then, there was really nothing there.
In Bayport?
Yes,
yeah.
In Bayport, nothing. And we lived at the end of 3rd Avenue. And at the very end of that street, northern end of that street, was the Bayport Aerodrome. And I remember as a kid, very young, playing in the woods with one of the down planes there. Of course, it was a bi-wing fabric plane. So, and then we moved to Hop Hog. I lived on the Prince Egg Farm, which is right on Wheeler Road, which is now, I guess, State Route 111 or whatever. And I remember as a kid walking down and watching Vets Highway be built. And of course, there was no expressway at that time whatsoever.
Yes.
So, very differently. And then I moved to Central Islip, and we lived in one of the first houses, I think maybe the first house that was built in Central Islip, the Bridger House. It was built in 1856. And we lived there for a few years, and then I moved to Sayville, and I lived on Candy and Maple Avenue. So,
just all over a bit there on Long Island.
Yeah, all over Long Island, absolutely. We lived there for a while, and at that point, we moved to New Jersey briefly, and I went to high school in New Jersey, and then we moved back to Long Island to Mineola, and I went to college. I got my bachelor's degree in history from Adelphi, and then I got my master's in history. And each time, some minor in political science. So I did that, and I wound up teaching. And I was a teacher for 12 years. And I had been active a little bit in politics, and my party was way out of power. And then in the 79 election, they won. And I was asked to come because when I was a teacher, I used to work for the school district, Hot Park School District. I remember as a kid, the school that I taught in being dedicated a long time ago, and I wound up teaching there. And I was in the teachers union and on the executive board and treasurer of the teachers union. And then, but I had done summer work for the school district working on federal and state aid. And I was asked to be the federal and state aid coordinator for the town of Brookhaven part-time. And I said yes. And the first grant I wrote was for millions of dollars, but the federal government conditioned it on staff, hiring staff, not consultants. So they asked me to run the program, community development block grant program and housing program. And I became an instant expert in housing community development. I became the town's first housing community development director in Brookhaven and did that job for 5 years. And then my legislator resigned in 1985. Didn't want to run again, was going to take a job in Washington, and they asked me to run for county legislator. And I've been in office ever since. I've won 19 elections, and, I was in the legislature for 4 years, 2 terms, and then I got elected as county clerk, and I served 5 terms as county clerk for a little bit more than 16 years. Then I got elected back to the legislature. And one would say, wow, it's kind of going backwards. It turned out that job would be my favorite job of all. When I first was elected, I represented a district that went from Eastport to Bellport and North Decorum. The second time I was elected to the legislature, believe me, it was totally different because there was 20 years difference between the first time and the second time. It was amazing. The legislature operated differently and stuff like that, but my district was a wonderful district. And it was all of Eastern Brookhaven, from Shoreham on the North Shore to Center Merchants, where I live, on the South Shore. But it also included the towns of Riverhead, Southold, and Shelter Island. That became my favorite job and my favorite place in the world. So when people say, you county executive, but I tend to look east.
Yes.
So, and after that, I was asked to run for Brookhaven supervisor because the supervisor at the time resigned in the middle of his term.
What year was that?
That was 2012.
Oh, okay.
So I thought about it for a long time, and I decided to do it. But my son had served as a council person in the town of Brookhaven, unfortunately passed away. And I knew had he lived, he would always want to be supervisor. And I said, well, I'll say yes. And I would be elected 5 times as supervisor of the town of Brookhaven. And the town eventually, the town had councilmatic districts. And they had 6 councilmatic districts, and I was the only supervisor at the time to carry all 6 districts each time I ran. And when I was a legislator out here in the 1st district, I won every election district. Each time, the 4 times I ran.
Yes.
So, and I was getting ready to retire because I'm old. And I was asked to run, and I said, I really don't want to run again. I'd like to retire. I said, but if you want, I'll do supervisor one more time. And my political leader said, no. We want you to run for county executive. I said, I really don't have a burning interest in running, but I know the county, and I ran, and I was lucky enough to be elected by a substantial margin. My opponent, who I knew, outspent me 2-1, but I still won the election. So I'm here and trying to do the job.
Yes. And then I just wanted to go back a bit.
Yeah. I went very quickly over a long life.
But I was just curious, even we do ask people on here, because you said your parents were in New York City before they made their way out here.
Right.
But do you even know how far back you can go with your ancestry? Whether on either side of your family?
Well, my mother was Irish.
Okay.
all Irish. So at some point, her great-great-grandparents probably came from Ireland. So it was a couple generations back.
Yes.
On my father's side, I believe my grandmother came from Germany,
Okay.
and my grandfather came from Denmark. So, although I'm told the name is Dutch, I thought it was French, but it's Dutch. Because my cousin is doing some genealogy. I don't have time for that. But so, yeah, interesting. So I'd be, I guess, a second generation or third generation from my paternal side. My maternal side probably came from Ireland several generations back. So
And did you meet any of your grandparents?
both my grandfathers were dead by the time I was born. Well, I should say that. My maternal grandfather had died in 1932 during the Depression. Very difficult for my grandmother, who raised my mother. She was still alive, and my paternal grandmother was still alive. My paternal grandfather was alive for the first year of my life and then died shortly thereafter. So I wish I had both of them, but I had my grandmother's.
Yes.
And I was very influenced by my maternal grandmother, who unfortunately died in 1960. So
And could you say what your parents did for a living?
my mother was mostly a homemaker, and my father was a butcher. And then that's why we moved to Jersey, because all the supermarkets came out here. And as they did, the butcher shops died off, because usually you do your grocery and then you go to your butcher, and that was not the case. So he moved up to Jersey and had a general store and butcher shop there. But even the supermarkets were moving up there, and he realized, nope, this isn't working. He moved back and became a real estate broker, very successful as a real estate broker. Because that's the one thing that Long Island was known for in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, real estate. That's where you made money. So he did very well, and we had moved back to Mineola, and then he settled in Ashroken. And then he moved out to me when I moved to Santa Mauritius, where we lived with my family.
Okay.
Unfortunately for me, my first wife died. My son died as well, so I know a little bit about tragedy in life.
Yes. And before we move later, I was curious, just even for yourself as a child growing up on Long Island. You mentioned you moved around quite a bit, but what do you remember as a child? Even what activities you might do outside for fun
We
as a
have
kid?
organized or planned activities. You made your own activities. You went out there. You'd explore the area that you lived in. And you'd look around. As I said, when I lived in Bayport, we found an old plane that was crashed in the woods, and we played in that. When I lived in Hot Park, there was a cornfield. I lived on an egg farm. So there were a lot of things around there to look around and do. I lived in Central Islip. It was an old house and on a piece of property, and people that you got to know and play games with. And when I lived in Sayville, we belonged to a swim club there, Shoreham, which is now a town park, but it used to be a private facility where you get lockers and you swim in the bay and stuff like that. So,
And going into, where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Butler, New Jersey.
Butler, New Jersey.
So that's off Route 23, as in Morris County.
Okay.
Okay, and there are, as I remember, 23 counties in New Jersey and 62 in New York. So,
And how was the time going through school there, and were you interested in any particular subject matter? I know you taught history.
Yep, I'm very interested in history, and when I went to high school, I joined Future Teachers of America. I was on the basketball team, and I was on the track team. So I try to stay active, busy, things to do. I enjoyed high school a lot of friends there. But then we moved back to Long Island, and I went to college. So
Did you know coming out of high school what you wanted to do?
I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I thought about being a teacher. Always was interested in that, and was interested in social studies and history, and had the good fortune to train and do some student teaching, get a job teaching, and, then went for my master's, and I did postgraduate at Stony Brook.
And
I also went to the Robert Taft Institute of Government, which is a one-year intensive study of government.
okay. And when was it? I think you might have mentioned it briefly early on that you wanted to get involved in politics or government,
Local politics?
local politics.
Absolutely, yes. When I went to college, I was president of the Political Science Association. I was in the History Guild. I was president of the Young Republicans in college, active in a lot of different things.
When was the first time you ran for the Brookhaven? Because that was
I didn't run for Brookhaven. I ran for county legislator.
county legislator first.
1985. This is my 40th year in elective office. I've never been out of office. I've been very fortunate to represent the people that have elected me, and I'm very appreciative of that.
But even in those first years in office, do you think there's some similarities in what you were working on then in terms of issues going on then in the 80s to now?
Somewhat similar. I got elected, and when I was elected, I ran as an anti-Shoreham candidate. I was opposed to the construction of the Shoreham nuclear power because of the lack of a suitable evacuation plan, and I didn't think nuclear power was as safe as it should have been. So that issue's still kicking around. I was a great believer in trying to save what is left. That's why I love being a legislator for this district. When I was a legislator for this district, I preserved more land and preserved more farmland through the Farmland Preservation Program than the other 17 legislative districts combined. So I'm a great believer in open space and preserving the environment. I've had the good fortune of most of the time, every time I ran, to be endorsed by most environmental groups, including the Sierra Club. Different outlook on life than some of my colleagues to the west.
And after that, was it that you ran for supervisor?
It was county legislator for 4 years, county clerk for 16 years.
Okay.
Long time. Legislator for the first district, this area here, which includes Greenport, for 7 years. Then win a special election and 4 more elections to be supervisor for 12 years, and then win for county executive.
Wow. And what about your time looking back on those multiple public roles? How would you describe your leadership style over that time, or has it evolved?
I'll talk about my leadership. When you're a legislator, you only have your vote. You're not running anything except a small staff. So the most important thing a legislator can do is speak to the issues that he feels deeply about and try to sway his colleagues to his point of view. And most importantly, to remember that you're the only voice that district has. So, boom, you've got to speak up for the things that matter to your district and try to get the others to see its importance not only to your district, but to all of Suffolk County. I was very fortunate because at the time I represented the North Fork. The legislator for the South Fork was Jay Schneiderman, who had been the supervisor of East Hampton, then became a county legislator, then went on to become the supervisor of Southampton. And when we were in the legislature together, I said, Jay, you represent the South Fork, I represent the North Fork. There's 2 of us against 16 others. we better stick together on all East End issues. And we did. And the reason I could say that to Jay, and sometimes I kick him under the table, is because I taught Jay 7th grade social studies in an earlier life.
Yes.
So we know each other a while.
Yes.
And he started off as a Republican, became an independent, and then a Democrat.
Okay.
So he but it didn't matter because local issues tend to rise above partisan descriptions.
Mm-hmm. Especially, I think, out here on the East End.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to jump to your time as supervisor at Brookhaven, because is that the biggest? I think that's one of the biggest districts. Or not district.
Brookhaven geographically is the largest town in the state of New York. It's larger than Nassau County. Population-wise, it's the second largest town. Hempstead is the first. We're second with 500,000 people.
Hmm. But you said you won that race multiple times.
5 times.
5 times. What do you think were some of the most important issues you worked on for the town there?
I think the most important issue is preserving open space. Mm-hmm. As supervisor and as county executive, I sit on the Pine Barrens Commission. I was able, National Grid owns 800 acres up in Shoreham around the plant, around the old nuclear power plant. I was able to take all of those 800 acres and 300 others in the Mastic Maniville area and put it into the core of the Pine Barrens. Mm-hmm. Pine Barrens has 2 areas, compatible growth in which some growth is allowed and the core in which very little, if anything, is allowed. Mm-hmm. People ask me, oh, tell me about the Pine Barrens. I said, well, it's very boring. You fall asleep, and occasionally they kicked me when it was time to vote, and I'd just yell no, and then I could go back to sleep again. Because really, that's the purpose of the Pine Barrens, to prevent development in the Pine Barrens. Mm. So I joke about that, but they had a serious purpose, and I still enjoy serving on that commission.
Mm-hmm. And now you mentioned you were retired when you decided to run for...
No, I wanted to retire.
You wanted to retire?
I didn't get that chance. I wish I had. But I didn't get that chance.
One thing to the next.
Right. One thing, I've been consistently in office, as I said, for 40 years. I'm elected in 85, and this is my 40th year in office.
Does it feel like it's gone fast, or you've been in...
You look back, it goes fast. Mm-hmm. You look forward, some days go very slow. It all depends on your perspective.
Yes. But when that election came around...
for county
executive, were you surprised with the outcome of being elected?
I was surprised it wasn't as close as I thought it would be. Mm. My opponent was a very knowledgeable guy, graduated from Princeton, went to Harvard Law School, was working for the governor's family of Colorado. They had gone to college together. Mm-hmm. Interesting story. Mr. Poulos, who's the governor of Colorado, went to Princeton and ran for school president and lost to my opponent. Mm. But despite that, they became friends. And afterwards, my opponent had done some work, I think, in the state attorney general's office for years. And then Mr. Poulos wanted to run for Congress, and he couldn't run he's a multi-billionaire. Mm-hmm. He couldn't run his business and asked my opponent to do that. And that's what he's done ever since. Mm. So very close, and had a lot of money behind him. And okay, that's nice. As I said, I believe he outspent me 2-1 on the race.
Yes.
So, but I was fortunate because I've been around Suffolk County for a while, and I was able to win, most of the towns, all of the western towns I won, no mm-hmm. problem. And I believe I won, I know I won Riverhead well, and won Southold. So.
Yes. And being elected into office, you made physical responsibility and debt reduction central to your agenda. What specific measures are you taking to stabilize Suffolk County's financial finances while still
Well,
addressing.
the finances aren't be stable because we rely on an unstable basis. Most of the county taxes are based on sales tax, not property tax. You take a look at your tax bill, your property tax bill. The smallest part of it is the county, not county police, which of course we don't have in the 5 eastern towns. But so you're paying between $100 and $200 maximum a year for your county taxes. County relies mostly on sales tax, which is really not good because sales tax fluctuates so greatly, which has created all types of financial problems for the county. And what they did is they had a tremendous year when Bob Gaffney was county executive with the sales tax, so they reduced the property tax. So now you're lucky if the property tax produces between $40 and $50 million a year countywide. Where at one time, back in the 90s, it was producing $160 million. And that's not in today's dollars. Today, that would be worth a lot more. So we don't have a constant, which makes for that a problem.
Yes. But
I can tell you we had similar financial problems in Brookhaven Town. And it took some time. The county is much bigger and has much more complicated problems because of my predecessor. He never settled a lawsuit. We had many. And we had all of our 9 contracts come due the day I walked into office. I was like, hello. So the town had financial problems, but they had better leadership from my predecessor, Supervisor Lesko, who resigned in the middle of his term. I think he's in private law practice now. He had been with the U.S. Attorney's Office at one point, and he had left to join a not-for-profit, and he left that to join Hofstra, and then he went back to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and then Joe Biden there helped him out because he was about to become the U.S. Attorney for Eastern District, which I believe he did for about 30 days until they appointed his successor. And at that point, he went back into private law practice. Smart guy.
But what about public safety remains a top concern?
Public safety is my top concern, and I will not. Anyone in government, public safety is the first obligation of any government. If you can't have safe streets and safe neighborhoods, then what are you doing? All else doesn't matter. Safety is the first priority, and I've made that. My opponent had left many positions vacant, over 200, in our police department.
There was a big shortage at that time.
I filled it with 220 police officers when I came into office immediately, regardless of the expense, because that's your obligation. I added 50 new detectives positions, and we beefed up our public safety. Now, that doesn't matter that much to the East End, although the East End relies on the Suffolk County Police because they have the specialized homicide squad, arson squad, and other squads with specialized knowledge that not every East End police force does. Some are as small as my good friend Chief Reed out in Shelter Island. Some are much larger, like in Southampton, or in Riverhead with Ed Frost just became the new police chief there. So yeah, yes. And we try to work with all of our police departments. We have 5 town police departments and 9 villages. 4 villages on the west end and 5 villages on the east end that have their own police department. I'm very familiar with police structure, and we try to cooperate and realize that geographic boundaries should not limit our cooperation.
And what about even, I know it's probably across the whole country, but even the opioid crisis, is that
The
important?
opioid crisis is significant. County has received some opioid money. My opponent my predecessor, Mr. Ballone, gave out 2 rounds of that money. And in an effort to try to get that money out, he forgot to indicate that there may be some requirements that they should do. So a lot of chaos prevailed, and then when people went to seek reimbursement for different things, there were certain expenditures that were not legitimate, that were denied, which created a whole host of problems. So, and then for some reason, Mr. Ballone decided that the police department, the health department, the medical examiner that buried 499 people from drug overdoses in 1 year, and other departments of county government, probation, etc., would not be entitled to any of this money. So none of the opioid money went to any county departments, which I found incredible. So this 3rd round that we're going to be putting out, but this time, fortunately, I worked with our comptroller, John Kennedy, who was not paying many of the bills because they didn't meet muster, to issue a booklet to explain what has to be done. And when we announce the 3rd round, we're going to set up training so the not-for-profits know what's an eligible expense, what's not an eligible expense, and that we pay these because they weren't paying the vouchers in a timely fashion, and that we seem to get them paid in a timely fashion.
Yes.
Very, very important that government operates. That didn't seem to be a top priority. At least when I came into office, I was like, wow, that's basic, paying your bills.
Yes. And another topic would be housing affordability.
I'm a huge supporter of affordable housing. Now, builders don't build affordable housing. They make money by building unaffordable housing. That's how they make their money. So if you're going to have affordable housing, people should realize that some manner, shape, or form, either not-for-profits or government, have to be involved to help subsidize that cost. Okay? Because look what houses are going for in Suffolk County. So what does the county do? Well, we have a down payment program, for example, where you can get, if you're eligible, up to $30,000 that the county will give you towards a down payment to help you buy a house for first-time home buyers. We work very closely because, as you know, some people, unfortunately, don't pay their taxes, and eventually the county takes that property under the Suffolk County Tax Act. We make that, the county, by the way, does not have housing powers. Only towns and villages have housing powers. So we make that housing available to municipalities, as they did with me. I'm a huge supporter of Habitat for Humanity. I think that's a wonderful program. Cannot tell you how great that program is. And whenever we would get land from the county, we'd immediately flip that over to Habitat for Humanity. Because with Habitat for Humanity, they build, you have to put sweat equity in and stuff like that, and the people actually wind up owning the house. And most of these are low to moderate income individuals. We've also worked with Long Island Housing Partnership and Peter Elkowitz in trying to build houses. We're building some houses in North Bellport where they're a duplex with a side apartment on each, so there's like 2 main units and 2 additional side units that can be rented out. So we're building 14 of those, which will produce 14 times 4 units of housing. I will look to work with any of our towns and villages to promote housing. And whenever land becomes available that's suitable, we'll make it available to not-for-profit housing, such as Habitat for Humanity, Community Development Corporation, a whole host of Long Island Housing Partnership, etc., to do affordable housing. And whenever I can, we subsidize. For example, we just gave $1 million to the town of East Hampton because they built affordable housing units, and we helped subsidize that with our contribution. We will do that with all of our towns and villages. But we can't keep up with demand. And if we don't have more affordable housing, at some point we're going to forfeit our future because we won't be able to have people live in our communities, be volunteer firemen, volunteer ambulance or help out in other ways or have jobs. And this cannot be just an area where the wealthy or very wealthy or the very poor live.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And sometimes we've seen resistance from local communities, whether where they want to build it, but it's essential to have, otherwise the...
Housing should be incorporated in part of any community,
Mm-hmm.
and we should make arrangements for all types of income,
Mm-hmm.
for the diversity that we need,
Yes.
and that's important. We lose our young. We lose people who, we are needed for, who's going to take care of the grocery stores? Who's going to take care of all the businesses? Who's going to do all of this? Well, if you don't have affordable housing, you're not going to get those people. They're going to move away. And then you're going to forfeit our future. Our future is in our young people. If they can't afford to live here, that's a huge problem. Remember, I started to spend 5 years as the first Commissioner of Housing and Community Development for the town of Brookhaven.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm always going to advocate for affordable housing.
Yes.
Even librarians need affordable housing. I don't know if they pay you enough here, but...
I could use some affordable housing.
Yeah. Not only affordable housing, but probably a little extra pay.
A little extra
You got to
pay.
talk to the library board about that.
Our director and board.
Yeah, good luck.
No, and then you also had signed the Historic Water Quality Restoration Act. How's the timeline for that? Was that implemented recently?
Yes, it's been implemented, but it's not the panacea that we would like. What that was is people voted once again, as they have voted each and every time for environmental issues, voted to support taxing themselves. And you ask people what they don't like about Long Island, one of the first things are the taxes. But they offered a 1/8%, not a lot, on the sales tax if it would all go to water restoration and sewers and septics. And they voted 72% in this county for that. But unfortunately, that 1/8% was projected to make about 50, maybe as much as 60 million. This year, we're lucky if we do 40. So it's not coming in the numbers we thought. Now, what does $40 million mean in terms of sewers? Not septic systems, but sewers. Practically nothing. Practically nothing. Now, after Superstorm Sandy, the county, under Mr. Malone's leadership, applied, and about 10 years later got the money, thank you, Steve, to do half of Mastic. Half. Not Mastic Beach, not Shirley, not all of Mastic, half of Mastic. That was $228 million to build the plant and put in the sewers. And with sewers, of course, just like water mains, there's three expenses. There's the big expense, which is the main. Then you got to pay for a meter. A meter is several $1,000s. And then you got to pay for the connection from the street to your house or the building, and that's several $1,000s more. The great thing is when you use federal funds, you can pay for the meter and the hookup.
Okay.
And why can't you do that when you use state funds? Because there's a state constitution that has a gift provision. You're prohibited from giving. It's considered a gift. That's why we love federal funds, because we can do all three. Because when you don't do all three, let's talk about the granddaddy of the sewer districts in Suffolk County. What's the granddaddy of them all? The big one, the Southwest Sewer District. That's about 50 years old. There are 20% of those people who are paying taxes that are still not hooked up. So when I do sewers, I want to hook up everyone. Everyone that wants to be hooked up.
Yes.
Because once you're in a district, you're taxed. When you're in a sewer district, you pay a tax and you pay a usage fee. But there's 20% that chose they didn't want to pay for the meter, they didn't want to pay for the hookup. This is 50 years after the sewer district was established. Really? So you're not getting the benefit of the sewers.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I have a different view of sewers than others. I am opposed to sewers that discharge into bodies of water, such as the ocean, the sound, or the bay.
Yes.
Almost all of our old sewer districts do exactly that. I want to build tertiary sewers that recharge our aquifer
Mm-hmm.
because they are treated to such a high standard that they can be put back into the earth and used. And I am planning to spend some money, if we have it, to do water reuse projects. Now, what's a water reuse project? Instead of dumping it in the ocean, which is what the Southwest Sewer District does at Bergen Point, right next door to Bergen Point is a Bergen Point golf course. Let's treat that sewage so you can put it on the golf course and then you don't have to irrigate or fertilize.
Yes.
And is that being done anywhere else? Yes, it is.
It's in other parts of the...
No, one other part, because it was done when I was a legislator out here. So Indiana Golf Course,
okay.
the county golf course, has the River's Edge sewage treatment plant. The effluent is put on the golf course. They don't have to fertilize, and they don't have to irrigate, and that is filtered back into the aquifer. Because if we keep on taking our effluent and flowing it out to the ocean or the bay or the sound, we are not only going to have water quality problems, we are going to have water quantity problems. Mm-hmm. And guess what? We're an advantage because all we have to do is look west. And now you look at Nassau County, and particularly southwestern Nassau County, because they've pumped so much of because they have tons of sewage treatment plants all over the place. Mm-hmm. They've pumped so much out, you're beginning to see saltwater intrusion into the aquifer, and that's extremely dangerous. I do not want to see that happen for Suffolk County.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing it's being discussed here on the North Fork, over usage, and then we're talking with the Suffolk County water authorities.
Suffolk County Water Authority has a plan that is hotly debated to tap in to the Pine Barrens over in Flanders, take it across the Peconic River and up, I guess, 105 to Northfield Turnpike, and then along Sound Avenue all the way to the Southold border. Southold has a very shallow aquifer, and I know I spoke to Al Krupski, who, by the way, succeeded me in the legislature and then is now the Southold supervisor. Mm-hmm. And he is opposed to that. He doesn't want Suffolk County water. Mm-hmm. And he's afraid that would spark development. I said, the last time I looked, I thought the town was in charge of development and zoning. Mm-hmm. But I understand your concerns. And he said, and we have all these people watering their lawns. I said, I know that's a problem, but do you think it might be farmers irrigating their farms? Mm-hmm. Al's a farmer, so he said, no, I don't think it is. I think that is a problem. Mm-hmm. And now the Suffolk County Water Authority, they're not going to give water to the farmers because they all have wells. Mm-hmm. From which but what they'll do is they'll give water to everyone else that is draining the aquifer. So the shallow aquifer on the North Fork will not go away. And that's only one of the problems. Mm. We have forever chemicals, and the most concentrated part of them happens to be in Orient and Orient Point. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I've heard about that.
They can't drink their water or even shower in it, and they can't wait to get Suffolk County water, but I don't think it's coming that far east at this time. Mm-hmm. But that is a problem, these forever chemicals.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But what about sea level rise or flooding?
Sea level rise is a major, major, major problem. Mm-hmm. Some people don't believe in climate change. I'm not among those. I do believe in it, and I worried about it as supervisor for our low-lying areas in Brookhaven Town, particularly areas like Massac Beach and Shirley, Brookhaven, Hamlet. We had sea rise, and I am concerned because the sea is rising. It's not rising quickly, but it's rising enough. And in storms, we feel, threatened.
Yes. And also I know Suffolk County, it's much more of a car-centric
Why is that? I wonder why.
with the highways and
Why is it? Why is that?
because of the way things are
We
laid
don't have
out.
decent public transportation. We have 3 railroad lines that cross this county. Almost all of them use diesel. The dirtiest fuel that you could imagine. Where's the electrification? Where is the electrification that Nassau County has? And let's look at the other thought of public transportation, buses. When I was a county legislator, we had no Sunday bus service in this county. And I worked with my colleague on the South Fork, Jay Schneiderman, my former student, and we put a bill in for the S92 route, which starts in Greenport and loops around all the way to East Hampton.
Yes.
At the time when we did this, that was the most widely traveled route. I had more people riding that bus. Why do you think that was?
Because of where, like the design for the
Had nothing to
bus
do
stop.
with that. It had to do with people who at that time could not get a license in this country, that were here illegally, not citizens of this country. But they all worked at basic jobs, landscaping, things like that, construction. And many of them lived in Riverhead. Some of them lived out here. But the only way they could get to work is by the bus. So if you rode S92 back then, and I don't know if it's different now because I haven't been out here, you better habla español. And then what happened is the state changed the laws and allowed people who were not citizens to get licenses here. Before, they used to go to South Carolina. I don't know if you know that.
No.
My office was right on Griffin Avenue. I used to watch, when I was a legislator, I used to watch because at the very end of Griffin Avenue was a laundromat, and that's where they would go and do the laundry, many of the people that were here. So, and I know people say, well, we need to send these people all back home. We would have a lot of problems with our economy because a lot of these people work in jobs that Americans don't take,
Yes.
particularly in farming and landscaping and construction and home care. So that's something to think about.
But to even the railroad, is that something that you've talked to with the MTA?
Constantly and forever.
And
Constantly and forever. We have been shortchanged by the state of New York, by DOT, by MTA, and anyone else. And I try to raise this, and I've met many times with our governor. The same reason we're not getting state aid at this time for sewers. Really. So, and I get it. I understand. I happen to know Tom DiNapoli, our state controller, very well. Excellent guy. Great guy. But neither he nor any other state elected official have carried Suffolk in the last few years. So, when you ask for Suffolk, it's like, really?
it's all focused further west.
Let's focus where they have support. They do not have support in this county. And that's a problem because you have to try to make the case why it's important to do many of these infrastructure programs. And they're thinking, why should I spend money in a county that doesn't support me? Well, because you're a public servant and you have to rise above that and you have to serve the whole state. That argument sometimes rings hollow with these people.
And just with the bus line out here, do you see any?
Well, the bus line is a perfect example. Let's take buses. Suffolk is 3 times the size of Nassau County. How much do you think Nassau gets a year in state aid for their buses?
I'm not sure.
How about $100 million? What do you think Suffolk gets, which is 3.5 times larger? for their buses.
30?
How about 40 million? Yeah. You think we're getting shortchanged?
Yeah.
My whole experience as county executive is spending my time fighting for the future of this county. I want to build a better public transportation system. I want to build a bus system that meets our trains. I want to build trains that run on timely fashion. I want to make sure that we get things done. And I just don't see that happening. All issues of government are issues of money. Tell me how you spend your money, and I'll tell you what type of government you have or what type of society you're going to get. Mm-hmm. And we have been on the short end of the stick for too long.
Yes. And I also wanted to ask about just the North Fork and growing up on Long Island. When was the first time you visited the North Fork?
My parents used to ride around all the time in the cars, so I visited the North Fork and the South Fork. I've seen all the changes over the years. Mm-hmm. And, this is not exactly the county I grew up in, but I don't think there's too many people that could say that about wherever they grew up because things change.
Yes.
And if there's one constant in life, it's change. So I always view the North Fork as a special place. And the South Fork used to be a very special place, but then people with a great deal of money found out how wonderful it was and had the money to spend to build their estates or whatever they built there. So, But that's not to think that the East End is just for the wealthy, because we have a whole group of people of all classes that live here.
Yes, definitely.
Including librarians.
Yes. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle within the group. But even the North Fork, it has changed a lot.
Yes, it has. Well, we had a lot of people move out here during COVID.
Yes.
A tremendous amount of people moved out here at COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely that accelerated things a bit, and with the real estate and...
Well, I'm waiting to see what the city election brings.
Yes.
Because anyone with money will say, why am I staying in New York City? Because all I'm going to do is get beat over the head with taxes. Mm. Corporations are saying the same thing, because the likely candidate to win that election is Mr. Mandami, who's a socialist, and has said he's going to tax the wealthy. But the programs he's talking about and tax corporations, like free grocery stores, free bus service, and then free childcare, all of those things, you're not going to tax the 1%. You're going to have to tax the 50% because you're going to raise a lot of money to do that. Those are very expensive programs. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying they're wrong. That isn't my judgment. I don't live there. God bless the people of New York City, our colleagues to the West. But it's like you're going to see people who are living there that say, I have a lot of money. I don't have to pay the city income tax. I don't have to pay extra taxes or corporations, and they're going to look to move. Mm-hmm. Because you can do business. Most businesses can do business from any location.
And then there won't be as much or those corporations won't be there, and then they can't tax them.
Well, I said if Mr. Mandami's elected, I told our economic development guys, go out there and tell the corporations, don't move to Florida or Tennessee or Texas. Think about moving out to Suffolk. Mm-hmm. We'll give you a tax break. We have an industrial development agency that can give a tax break. We can give a pilot payment in lieu of taxes. Mm-hmm. We can forgive half the sales tax and half the mortgage tax. So think about Suffolk, because we could use the jobs, and I want to see economic growth here, and I want to make sure that there's enough jobs that everyone that wants to have a job can get a job. And we have pretty much close to full employment in Suffolk with some notable exceptions.
But even separate from the election and the outcome there, for the future of Suffolk's economy, for job creation or supporting small businesses or ensuring younger generations can afford.
Small businesses are important. They're about 75% of the businesses that do business in Suffolk County. But that's not to say we don't have industrial parks. We have the Second largest industrial park in the United States, in the Hop Park Industrial Park, which is the largest one east of the Mississippi. We have numerous industrial parks. We have a number of industries that do here, and we're trying to grow those industries because we think jobs are important. If someone has a job, is making money, life is a little bit better.
Yes. Yes.
We have a very low unemployment rate, and we have a very skilled workforce because compared to other parts of the country, we have a workforce that has a high educational level and a high skill level. So, yes, our taxes are a little bit higher here because of the state, and we live in New York State, which is a pretty heavily taxed state, but we have a lot of other benefits. We have a quality of life, and we have a capable, trained workforce for a labor pool, and we are trying to develop our economy and make sure that jobs are abundant, and we keep a low unemployment rate, and people who are looking for jobs can get hired, and they don't have to leave the island. We don't want them to leave the island, which is key to trying to promote more affordable housing.
Yes. And then just working throughout your career, both across the political parties, in a time of deep political division, how do you foster collaboration and more initiatives for Suffolk County?
You work with people. Let me tell you, when I came into office, the one thing I noticed is the terrible infrastructure situation in Suffolk. Much of our infrastructure needed to be rebuilt. It's very expensive. So I put forward the largest capital budget. Capital budget is when you do the big things, buildings, roads, things of that nature, equipment. Put forward the largest capital budget in the county's history. We have an 18-member legislature. You've got conservatives, you've got Republicans, you've got Democrats. What do you think the vote was?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Then I put forward my operating budget. What do you think the vote was on that operating budget?
Unanimous.
What do you think the vote was on my capital budget this year?
Unanimous.
Then we had those 9 contracts. The biggest one was the police contracts. We put forward and we settled it with the police department. What do you think the vote was?
Unanimous.
A vote for the correction officers. What do you think that was?
Unanimous.
You got to know how to govern. I am blessed with the county legislature that does well. With the county legislature out here, Catherine Stark, I've known her for years. She was she worked for the legislature, then she was a legislative aide for Jay Schneiderman, then she was a legislative aide for Al Krupski. And while Al Krupski left, she got elected to that position. She's running for re-election. But I work with all legislators, Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, and that's why we get unanimity. Because when everyone's rowing in the same direction, the boat moves forward. When you see a government bogged down in internal disputes, it means it isn't progressing, particularly if it's extremely partisan or personal. Those things don't benefit government in the long run. People have to work together on things that make common sense. Does it make common sense to do the things that we're doing? So I've been very fortunate with the 18 legislators. As I said, there's conservatives, Republicans, and Democrats. It's not like it's, one major party.
Yes.
And I will work with everyone and anyone on things that will benefit the future of Suffolk County. And I am blessed with a group of people that, fortunately, when you do that and you appeal to the better angels of their nature, they respond. And we have had tremendous cooperation with our county legislature. And by the way, it was the same in the town of Brookhaven.
Yes.
All my votes were unanimous. And we had Democrats and Republicans on there too.
Do you think because you listen to a wide range of people and come to a conclusion at
we
the end?
focus on the things that we should focus in on as a government. We focus on the things such as infrastructure and providing services to people, things that government should be doing.
Why do you think, I know not here, but why do you think even on the federal level it's so tribal in some ways and
They're not
divide.
focused on the things that matter. They are not focused on the things that matter for this country. For example, I strongly supported Joe Biden's infrastructure program. We haven't seen much of that money because it goes to Albany in the state of New York. But that was the right way. We need to rebuild our infrastructure.
Okay.
If we rebuild our infrastructure, when we invest in our infrastructure, we improve our productivity. And every economist worth their salt will tell you that.
Mm-hmm. And looking ahead, we talked about a lot of different challenges or things you're working on, but what's the single most critical challenge that you want to address in the next decade?
Getting us through this budget, because we're running a deficit now. Now, we're running about $150 million deficit. And you would say, oh, my God. Do you know what the budget of Suffolk County is? $4.2 billion. So it's about 4% off. Okay. When you look at it, everything's in perspective. When you look at it that way. But nevertheless, my job is to try to close that deficit, try to reduce expenditures and our debt load, and try to settle all the lawsuits that my predecessor, Mr. Malone, chose not to settle, which now we're settling because that affects our bond rating, because you have to list your liabilities when you go out to bond anything. Usually you bond capital expenditures. Mm-hmm. And our biggest capital expenditures that we're going to be bonding in the next few years are sewers.
Yes.
So we want to make sure. Now, the first year I was there, I was able to get 4 bond upgradings for Suffolk County. Mm-hmm. Something that my predecessor was not able to do. When I came into Brookhaven, that also had financial problems. Within 2 years, I was able to get the town to AAA bond rating. And I have vowed before my term is up, I will get Suffolk County to triple bond. And I mean, they were in very bad shape a few years ago.
Yes. And now just being in office and being
a year and a half, a little bit more. Yeah, a year and 7 months, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But even just looking at your career in public service, what advice would you give to someone considering a career in your area coming up?
Career in public service is something worth pursuing. Politics is a very brutal business. But I'm very fortunate because I've learned to work with all my colleagues. Try to find common ground. Try to have a purpose. Try to have some ideas that resonate, that make common sense. Try to provide the leadership so that when you leave, you can look back, because you're the only one that's going to look back and say, I left it better than I found it. My first order of business when I became Brookhaven Town Supervisor and when I became County Executive was to make sure my name would not appear on any county sign. Period. Mm-hmm. I'm passing through. I always have to keep that in the back of my mind. That gives an urgency to try to do the things that are important with the understanding that you're not going to be remembered. So you have an obligation to yourself to provide the best leadership that you can. I'm very fortunate because after my wife died 9 years later, I was able to remarry. As a result, I have a stepdaughter who, as a result of that, I have 3 grandchildren. They live here. They live around the next town over from me. And I care about their future and what they find. And I look into their eyes, and I realize I have an obligation to leave this place better, to make it better. And a lot of government, just like a lot of institutions around here, they don't work perfectly. Mm-hmm. Not the library, for example. I'm sure there's slip-ups and faux pas that happen.
Yeah.
So that's true of government too, and it's true of individual lives. And all you can do is go out there every day and try to make it better. And many days you do well, some days not so much. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean you stop trying.
Hmm. Yes. And I think you touched on it a bit, but for you personally, what legacy do you hope to leave, even as county executive? What would you hope people look back on at this time?
I don't think people are going to look back on my legacy at all. But I think I'm hoping to leave a better place than I found it.
Mm-hmm.
Put the government on more stable financial footing. Preserve open space, preserve farmland, which is critical, absolutely important. Make transportation improvements. Demand the state, from state and the federal government, that their transportation aid. We should have had electrified rail.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We should have a better public transportation system. Make sure that our water quality remains as pristine as it can, and it's threatened every day by these chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
You might think, oh, we're out east, not a problem. Really? When I was Brookhaven supervisor, we had to spend money to put in Manaville,
Mm-hmm.
north of the expressway, water mains because their water was contaminated. And now we're putting water mains in Calverton and Peconic Lake Estates. You know where that is?
Yes.
Yeah. About 170 homes that we're putting in because their wells are contaminated. And then you go look at Orient.
Mm-hmm.
We have water quality. If you can't drink your water, we have water quality problems that we have to address. We have aquifer problems that we have to address. We have liquid waste that we have to address. We have to, guess what we each produce 4.5 to 5 pounds each day of?
Waste.
Garbage. What are we going to do with garbage? What do they do with garbage out here?
We have a dump, but then we don't have a landfill to...
There's no more landfills.
There's no more landfill.
They're all illegal. So what do you do? So you put stuff at the dump. When it sits there, what happens to it? It can't sit there forever.
Yeah.
Where does it go?
It goes off the island to another place to dump it.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
No. It doesn't seem like a sustainable...
It doesn't make sense. But let me tell you, the one agency that should make sense that make this happen is DEC, and they have failed in their mission. Mm-hmm. Because we should be doing far more recycling. But you know what? You can't recycle. And do you know why? No. Because recycling requires a marketplace for the recycled goods. And unless you create a marketplace, you're never going to see it happen. Like glass. Okay, it's cheaper to make new glass than to recycle old bottles. That's why we don't recycle old bottles. Mm-hmm. Really? I mean, we have, in Brookhaven, we have 15 places to drop off your glass. But what happens to it? Oh, they crush it and put it as cover on the landfill, which is closing. Really? But you know, you could take that glass and make it into what? An aggregate for concrete or sand. But you know what that requires? It's called a BUD. Beneficial use determination by DEC, and they haven't done that. Mm. You could also do that for ash. Did you know that?
No.
You could build a building out of ash blocks. Someone did that. Do you know who that was? At Stony Brook University. In 1989, they took ash from Brookhaven landfill and built a 2-story boathouse that is stronger today than the day it was built. And yet there's no beneficial use determination on how you could recycle and reuse ash. Or glass. Mm-hmm. Or any other thing. And where's the bigger, better bottle bill that will take a lot of these bottles off the street and have them recycled?
Yes.
Yeah. Nowhere. You want recycling, you have to help and work with localities to create markets. Mm-hmm. And unless you do that, these goods are not going to get recycled.
No, that's a challenge.
It's not a challenge.
We
haven't implemented it because of the state of New York. They're a stumbling block to progress.
Mm-hmm. And I think just lastly, what do you enjoy about living and working in Suffolk County?
I love Suffolk County. I have a great house. I bought a house many, many years ago, almost 50 years ago in Santa Mauritius. I lived in that house for about 25, 26 years until my wife died. And I bought a piece of land later around the block, a much larger piece of land, about an acre and a half. Mm-hmm. And I built on a house on that land. And I have a great backyard. I have 2 little dogs. And I'm not home enough to enjoy the backyard. I like to read. I love to sit out there. It's a beautiful backyard. And I was very lucky to remarry 9 years after my first wife died. And, fortunately, my wife is retired. So she's at home. Mm-hmm. And she helps raise the 3 grandchildren. So I wish I had more time to sit and enjoy my backyard. It is a beautiful backyard, and everyone takes pride in. Most people do anyway in their backyard, a little parcel of land that's theirs. So mm-hmm. I really enjoy that, and I could ask for nothing more. And anything else is extra. And I'm well past the age of retirement, and yet I have a purpose every morning to get up because I know a lot of what happens in this county depends on me doing something. And I know to do that, I have to work with all my colleagues, all my other elected officials. And I have a belief that if you're elected to office, you have an absolute obligation to work with your other elected officials, regardless of party, to find common ground and do the things that are necessary. Because so much doesn't get done because of argument and disagreements. Let's work on the things that can get done. Mm-hmm. Let's find the common ground that we can move this county forward, that we can improve things, make things better.
Definitely. And then I usually just like to ask at the end if there were any last-minute things you'd like to say or discuss that we haven't touched on.
All I would say is to the people that have elected me over the years, thank you. You've given me an opportunity to speak up for the things that matter and to try to help create better communities in Suffolk County. Mm-hmm. I believe in Suffolk County, and I want to make sure it has a great future. And as I said, I'm towards the end, so I'm hoping after I leave, the county will continue to prosper.
Yes. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast.
Absolutely. How's the Greenport Library? How's the Floyd Library doing?
It's doing pretty well.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've been here 3 years and been enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah.
What did you do beforehand?
I was working in the service industry. I did my undergrad and master's in the arts. So it's a tough field.
The arts?
The arts is a tough field to make a...
What were you doing prior?
Prior to the arts?
No.
Oh.
I mean, you said the service industry specifically.
Working in retail or restaurant service type work I could make more money there than I would as a...
Yeah, tips aren't too bad, and now they're not taxing tips. Yeah, think about that.
Yeah.
But this in some way, I'm sure, is fulfilling.
Yes. I enjoy being in a community space and seeing the community and working with them.
Are you the director of the library?
No. I'm the reference and local history librarian.
Oh, how are we doing on local history? Greenport has a lot of history.
Yeah, we have a lot, and I'm trying to get a lot of it recorded on record. People telling their stories too from the community. And
spoke to the former mayors.
Some of them.
Mr. Nice, he was mayor. Yes. Well, I thought that was a great name when he was mayor.
Mr.
Dave
Nice.
Capel.
Yes, I've had Dave Capel on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get George Hubbard.
Oh, George, that's right.
Yeah.
His father worked for me when I was county clerk.
Oh.
His father was a deputy county clerk.
Huh.
Yeah, so I know many of these people.
Yes.
For a long time.
Definitely. No, but it's a real honor to have you on today and share what you're working on for the county and all the work you've done.
Well, my work would be complete if I could preserve more farmland and open space, if I could get more sewage treatment plants in the heavily developed areas that need them so that we would have cleaner waters.
Yes.
Look, when I was a kid and used to swim in the Great South Bay, I could go, and man, I wasn't as tall as I am now, but I could go up to my neck and look down and see my feet. I don't know if that's still true today. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we've got a challenge to protect what God has given us in our environment. And I am always prepared to fight for the environment, prepared to fight for things like recycling, open space preservation, climate change, trying to be concerned. I'm a great promoter of alternative energy, solar, wind. I know wind's a little expensive, solar's much cheaper and can be done much quicker. I was disappointed when they took away the federal taxing credit. I think it was 35% or 30% federal tax credit for solar. I think that would be very helpful if that came back.
Yes. But I don't know how you must be on the go all the time with just having multiple events, and it's a lot of work.
It's a large county. It stretches a long distance.
Yes.
And you have an obligation, I feel that I do anyway, to try to represent every part of this county and to be everywhere you can and listen to the people. So whether it's from Amityville to Orient or Cold Spring Harbor to Montauk, you want to be everywhere in between.
Yes.
And I've got to tell you, to date, it's been a great experience in meeting people from every sector and every part of this county.
Yes. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure.
Listen, have a great day, and thank you for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 200 with County Executive Ed Romaine. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.